welcome to the Dojo Talk Podcast. Please remove them shoes before entry.
Sam Master is here, and you still have not taken off your shoes.
Yeah. Living every day to define man's mission. Looking to the sky for divine transmission. Deaf man's vision makes the blind man listen. Eyes on the prize, this is blind ambition. Thank you.
What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Dojo Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Serial Sensei. We are on episode number 147. As always, you can give this podcast a listen on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Give us a look on social media at the Dojo Talk Podcast Facebook page, as well as the Instagram page. Send questions to dojotalkpodcast@yahoo.com. And you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Serial Sensei if you feel inclined to do so. Today I'm actually recording a kind of a on the whim episode. I will not be joined with my co-host Anti-Cool this week. Like I said, this episode was kind of impromptu. I didn't really plan on talking about this Bellator card, but ended up being pretty good. So I figured I would come in here and give it its just due. Talk about it a little bit. Anti-Cool, we're both adults. We have lives outside of this podcast, obligations, so on and so forth. So he is out adulting. Seems like he will be a busy man for these next couple of days. And I actually was not able to watch the Bellator card in real time. I'm actually recording this at 11:13 a.m. On Sunday morning. So I literally just watched the Bellator card a couple of hours ago when I woke up. And I was enjoying it. I was like, you know what, I should probably talk about this. It's actually a pretty solid card. So figured I'd come in here and talk about it. But boy, it's been a lot going on this week. I had a pretty cool weekend. I'm not a very social person, but I was out and about last night. Homeboy celebrated his 30th birthday, so I was out in Washington D.C. outside of my comfort zone in a club / bar / lounge / you can play games, whatever. one of those little shindigs. But it was a cool time. Went out around some loud music, around good people, around friends. Played some basketball. Got dogged in Mortal Kombat on the arcade. Jesus Christ. I didn't play anybody, but I just tried to play the computer. And boy, am I not good at arcade games anymore. That did not go well. But and I had a random white dude who thought I was security for some reason. Maybe it was because I was just standing around in a black tee, but he was drunk. I don't know. It was weird. But this random dude just thinking you're security. No, sir, I can't help you with whatever issue you might have. You need to go handle that yourself, buddy. But it was a good time. And I didn't get home until like 1 something in the morning. And the first thing I'm actually going to talk about before I get to these fights, because I saw this while I was out. So I'm out at this, little bar, lounge place, whatever, chilling. I look up on the big screen, and I see that Andrew Luck has retired from the NFL. And I am hurt. We don't really talk about the NFL much on this podcast. I don't really think the Anti-Cool even watches football all that often. I used to watch it a lot. I haven't watched it much in these last couple years, but I try to keep up, when I can. But as far as my NFL alliances, Dallas Cowboys and an Indianapolis Colts fan. So, of course, as a Colts fan, seeing Andrew Luck kind of just abruptly retire was kind of, it hurt. It hurt. And for those who don't know, if you don't watch football, pretty much like the story of Andrew Luck's career, really, really talented quarterback, kind of took the reins of the Colts after Peyton Manning left. And if you know Peyton Manning, those are huge shoes to fill. He was really promising, man. Dude was just a really talented quarterback, physically strong, it's a tank of a quarterback, good arm. He could be mobile and run out the pocket if he needed to. Won us a lot of big games, got us to the playoffs a couple times. Never won, a Super Bowl or anything, but dude was just a really good, just a really talented quarterback. But the story of his career is just that injuries have kind of always just plagued him. He would always go through this moment where he'd have a good stretch of games or maybe a good season, and he gets injured, and then he has to rehab, and then he comes back, and then he plays a couple more games, then he gets injured again, and then it's just kind of this cycle that just goes around and round and round and round in circles. And I guess and excuse me for maybe like my lack of coverage on this, because I saw this while I was out, and of course, I'm in a bar, so like, or I'm in like a club, so music's loud, I can't hear anything on the TV. I'm just kind of like reading little blurb headlines as they go across the screen, and then I watched the video of the little press conference he did this morning when I woke up. But you just kind of got the sense from the press conference that he was just kind of, he realized his body was just shutting down. Like his body was not, it wasn't working. He couldn't keep continually putting himself through this process of play for a little bit, get injured, play for a little bit, get injured, play for a little bit, get injured. And it's not like he was just having like these simple injuries. Like he was really, like his shoulder was really bad for 1 year. I think this year he had, I don't know if it's like a calf, or he was getting these really bad injuries, and he's only 29 years old. And you feel for a guy when you see somebody that young. And to put it in perspective, I'm 30. I'm only a year older than he is. Like I couldn't imagine, like every year of my life I have to have this major injury, I have to keep getting these surgeries over and over, and it's keeping me from doing like the one thing I actually really care about. So he just kind of like abruptly retired, and it hurt as a fan, and also just like as a person, just having empathy, because it's like, dude, at 29, you don't, in any sport, man, at 29, like having to retire from injuries, like that has to really suck, man. Like that has to really, and the moments like these just kind of remind you why sports fans are just kind of, they can be really garbage and like trash. I didn't see all of what happened during the game, but I guess at one point during the game, Andrew Luck had left the field during the preseason, like wearing his street clothes, and like the fans started booing him, which to me is crazy, because I'm like, do you guys remember some of the days when Andrew Luck wasn't there? Like, do we remember the dark days when we had backup quarterbacks in? Those weren't good times. Y'all remember Curtis Painter? Yeah, I remember Curtis Painter. I remember a lot of losing that year. It was not fun. A lot of Andrew Luck and any quarterback in the last like decade not named Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning, when they were on the field, it was not a good time. But no, his injury to me, and I guess it's kind of ties to MMA too, it's kind of just a reminder of sports can be brutal. And we've seen this in the NBA with Boogie, who just, Boogie Cousins, who, I don't know if his career is over, but to be honest, it kind of seems like it. He just had another major injury. And it's just these moments when you get these guys who are still, I can't even just say relatively young. They're young dudes, and they're having these really just terrible injuries, and a lot of them just repeated year after year. And it's like, I guess fans just expect, because these guys are professional athletes, that they're some kind of like superheroes, like they can just kind of overcome anything. It's like, nah, like these dudes are human. Like at some point, you're just gonna reach a breaking point where it's like, yo, I can't do this anymore. And to be honest, I'm always for a guy getting out earlier rather than later, because you would hate to see Luck or any athlete have this injury, rehab, and then possibly come back and then get injured again, and it be something worse. And it's like, as fans, I think fans are just really selfish. You're just thinking about your own entertainment, your little trash fantasy football team or whatever. But it's like, dude, these are like people at the end of the day. Like, dude, especially Luck. I think Luck is married, I don't know if he has kids, but like he's married, has a family, like all that stuff. Like people want to football or whatever sport you're in. It's not the end all be all. Like I know they love it to death, which is kind of what really hurts to see a guy go through something like that, because you know he really wants to play, but his body just really isn't allowing him to. But like there's life after football, and there's life after whatever sport you're in is over. And I'd rather a guy, same as like Calvin Johnson, whose situation wasn't like Andrew Luck's, but just a guy who just got out early, because like, dude, like my body's getting banged up. I'm not trying to be out here getting CTE. Like, let me get out while I'm healthy. And for Luck, unfortunately, he didn't want to get out. He was just kind of forced to get out. But I'd rather you get out now, rehab, let your body heal up, and just go live life. Just go enjoy life, enjoy time with your family. There's life after football. I'm pretty sure he could become a coach. He very, very talented quarterback. I'm sure he knows plenty about the game that he can pass on to somebody else. But it was just really trash to see fans like boo him. Like y'all are disgusting. Like don't. It's it shows on the internet. You can tell who's actually been through anything in life and who's just kind of on their keyboard warrior. You know, oh, I would have done. You wouldn't have done nothing, bro. Well, you wouldn't even have made it to the NFL. First of all, so we can start there. But nah, man, it really sucks seeing that. But you know, as a Colts fan, that definitely stung. But best of luck to Andrew Luck, man. Really sucks it had to end this way, but dude was a really, really talented quarterback whose career just unfortunately got cut by injuries, man. Just really got cut by injuries. Got cut short by injuries, I should say. But best of luck to Andrew, man. I hope life after football treats you well. I hope to see you in the front office, somewhere in that Colts organization. Maybe being a coach down the line. Just something. Because he's done a lot to help that team. So I wouldn't mind seeing him in the front office somewhere. But hopefully, man, life after football treats you well. So best of luck to Andrew. Appreciate you, man. Oh, that was nice and somber. So, I guess we can go ahead and kick this podcast off. Not a lot to cover today. Like I said, I'm going to just come here kind of on a whim and talk about Bellator. But I do have a few fight announcements on the docket. Not a lot in terms of, not a lot really in general. But I'll just run through these fight announcements, maybe give a few quick thoughts, and then we'll move on to Bellator 225. So, fight announcements. At UFC 244, we will have Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. And also on the same card, Edmund Shabazian versus Krzysztof Jotko. As far as Covington Usman, I think we've talked about that fight a few times on this podcast. My stance really from now until then hasn't really changed much. I think I still feel pretty comfortable rolling with Usman. I don't, as much as I really don't like Covington as like a person, he is just cringe to the max, like that uncomfortable kind of cringe. But I can't discount or discredit his skills as a fighter, as an MMA competitor. But some of the things that I've seen Covington do against his other opponents, I just don't imagine him being able to do against Usman. Like, I do not see him being able to just kind of bully him around in the clinch or get him up against the cage. Like, Usman is like freakishly athletic and strong, and I don't know, man. I don't see how he's really gonna. I would be really impressed if he did, but I don't see how he's gonna really be able to just kind of bully Usman around like that. That's something we've never really really seen happen before. I think Usman will be able to handle his own in terms of wrestling, in terms of grappling, and to be honest, Usman's probably stronger than Covington. Like I would not be surprised at all if this is a fight where we end up seeing Covington on his back. I could definitely see that happening. I can't imagine Usman just giving up ground to Covington so willingly, the way other opponents have, and that's partially I have to give props to Covington for that, because that just kind of relentless smothering style that he has. But I don't know. I don't see it. I really don't see it. That also could be a fight. I can envision this fight going a couple ways, but I'm also prepared for that fight to kind of be a fight where not a lot happens. I could also envision it being that way. And to be honest, I think that could be Covington's best chance to win. Maybe he does. Maybe they do just kind of have one of those clinch fests against the cage, and it's just a lot of little inside strikes and foot stomping. But I don't know. I think Usman's honestly gonna be able to get him out there. I think Usman's just physicality is just eventually gonna be too much for Covington. And not to mention Usman can crack pretty hard. Yeah, I don't know how Colby wins this. I got Usman getting him out of there probably by about round 3-ish. That's my prediction. Edmund Shabazian and Krzysztof Jotko. Thought that was a pretty interesting matchup. For some reason, I know a lot of people are really high on Shabazian. For some reason, I got a feeling. Jocko's about to mess around and crash the party, man. He's about to leave a lot of people hurt. I could be wrong. Shabazian's pretty talented, but Jocko's been in there. I know Jocko doesn't always have the most consistent performances, but he's been in there with some of the best dudes. I don't know. I just got this feeling. I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I like the matchup. I'm interested to see how that fight turns out. So that'll be at UFC 244. At UFC Singapore, we'll have Ben Askren versus Demian Maia. I'm not mad at this fight. I think considering what just happened to Askren in the Masvidal fight, I think this matchup makes sense. Like I think it's somebody that he can beat, and will probably be a fight that he won't get flying kneed in. But that would be wild, bro. If we see K1 Maia catch Askren with like a flying knee, I'm out of here. But I feel like I should be more excited about this fight than I am. And that's because I remember back when Demian Maia fought Jake Shields, and a lot of people didn't like that fight. I was really hyped for that fight, to see two dudes who were just so skilled at like grappling just kind of be able to go at it. I remember really enjoying that fight. But for some reason, this fight, which is somewhat similar to that, though Askren and Jake Shields they're not really the same. Like, Shields is a really strong grappler, can also execute submissions really well. Weird to say, I think Jake Shields is actually more entertaining to watch than Ben Askren, which is wild because Jake Shields when you think of Jake Shields, you don't really think of exciting. But in terms of just watching him just kind of execute grappling, just being able to outmaneuver, outposition his opponents, especially the way he did to Maia, we don't really get to see that often. In those kind of matches, I find him entertaining to watch. Askren's wrestling to me isn't really... It's dominant, but it's not really eye-pleasing. And I just think after watching Askren for so long in Bellator, I just kind of feel like with Askren, you've seen one Askren fight, you've kind of seen them all. So I guess for some reason this fight just isn't really doing it for me. But I think the one thing that's going to keep me interested, I would love to see if somehow like Askren can't get Maia down and Maia can't get Askren down, and we can see K1 Maia square off against, I don't know which, WBC Askren. Does he have hands? Like, I don't think Not really. I'm interested to see this fight turn into like a 5-round, just really ugly, just really ugly, terrible, like boxing / kickboxing sloppy matchup. That really intrigues me. I'm ready to see not something terrible, but kind of something terrible, if you get where I'm going. But I'm probably gonna roll. I think I'm gonna roll with Maia on this one. I'm probably gonna roll with Maia. But we'll see. We'll see. That's an interesting matchup. And boy, if Askren drops this matchup to Maia, we got to look back at that Mighty Mouse trade. It's gonna be looking real funny in hindsight. Looking real suspect in hindsight. But I think I'm gonna roll with Maia. I'm gonna trust in his jiu-jitsu, and he's not a terrible striker. Like, he's not the best, but he's gotten much more, just at least competent on the feet. Backtracking to his fight with Covington, that first round he boxed Colby up. So I'm gonna give Maia the win just because I think he's a bit more well-rounded, and Askren at this point, I don't think he's really gonna evolve his game. Like, I think at this point we know, if you've been watching Askren for this long, you know who Askren is. So I'm gonna roll with Maia because I think he just has a bit more tools at his disposal. So that'll be at UFC Singapore at UFC 245. We'll have Matt Brown versus Ben Saunders. All I can say about this fight, Matt Brown, 2-year layoff. He's coming back. I thought Ben Saunders was retired. I honestly don't remember. I don't know, man. Like, these, sometimes seeing guys who I think should stay retired, seeing them fight kind of bothers me. But I guess the one positive I'll say about this matchup is I'm at least glad that these are kind of two guys who I think it's fair to say are kind of, at their the tail end of their careers. I mean, Matt Brown hasn't fought in 2 years, and Ben Saunders, to me at this point, like, I like Ben Saunders, but at some points sometimes it just seems hard to watch him fight. It seems like when he gets knocked out, it's really bad. It's almost like you get concerned for the guy. But I'm at least glad that these guys are fighting each other and not, some hot shot like 10-0 prospect where, like, the prospect is pretty much a fight where they know the prospect's going to run them over. So in that, if I look at it in that scope, I guess this is a cool matchup, and I think it should be a fun fight. Like, Matt Brown is a really violent dude. Ben Saunders is a really crafty vet as well. So I think this will. I honestly don't think this fight's gonna last long. I think somebody's gonna be out of there in the first round. I think I'm gonna roll. I don't know. Because Ben Saunders is pretty crafty, but Matt Brown, man, I don't know. If Saunders can work that body, he might have a good chance. But even after a 2-year layoff, I think I'm gonna roll with Matt Brown. But don't quote me on that. Like, I don't know. I'm really splitting hairs with that one. But I think Matt Brown's probably gonna take it. But that'll be at UFC 245. And at UFC Tampa, we will have Eric Anders versus Gerald Meerschaert. So that's all I have for UFC fight announcements. I feel like I'm missing one, but I honestly can't remember. If I missed anything, we'll come back next week. On next week's podcast, we'll go back over it. But at Bellator, the only pretty new news I have for them, Rory Macdonald and Douglas Lima, welterweight Grand Prix final, will be going down on October 26th. Cannot wait for this fight. The tournament's been really fun, man. It's given us a lot of good moments. And we finally get to see these two rematch. And, man, I'm going with Lima, man. I'm going with the homie. He's been one of my favorites for a long time. I think he's going to get that title back, man. I really do. I think he's going to be able to get it done this time. He's had a good run in this tournament. Had one of the craziest knockouts versus MVP. But Rory's been handling business too. So I think it's going to be a tough fight. But I think Lima's going to be able to get him. Trying to think of a bold, spicy prediction. bold, spicy prediction. Lima's going to finish him. I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to stand on that. It's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a tough fight. I'm going to say Lima finishes him. I don't know how. Maybe TKO by like round 4. But it's going to be a nice back and forth scrap. Both dudes are probably going to be pretty marked up. But I'm going to say Lima TKO round 4. I'm going to stand on that. Watch Macdonald somehow like KO him in round 1. I'm going to be up here looking crazy. But that's going down October 26th. I cannot wait for that fight, man. Like this. Bellator has done a really good job as of late with these tournaments. I think they're a lot better than what they were back in the Bjorn days, Bjorn Rebney days. I think mostly because at this stage in 2019, like Bellator's roster is a lot deeper than it was back then. So like, if you look at even like that featherweight tournament, like you look at that tournament, it's like, bro, I don't know who's gonna win this. There's so many good matchups in that tournament. As to like back in the day when they used to do the tournaments, like you kind of knew who was gonna be in the finals. It was the same couple of guys. But these tournaments, man, I've been impressed. I really like how they've handled them, how they put them together, the matchups that they've made. But that welterweight tournament will be coming to a head on October 26th. Lima versus Macdonald. It's going to be awesome. Definitely can't wait for that one. And the last bit of news is Bellator signed former rugby star James Haskell. They made this seem like it was a really big announcement, and maybe it is. I'm probably speaking out of ignorance. They were teasing this whole, we've signed a major international fighter, something, and they had them all in like the black silhouette, looking like a hidden character in a Tekken game. And then it turned out to be James Haskell. I don't watch rugby. Like I have watched it before, but like I don't follow it like that. I can't name you one rugby player from the top of my head. So I don't really know how big of a deal this is. I don't even know if Haskell has any kind of combat sports background. Obviously, if you play rugby, though, you have to be a pretty good athlete. So I guess I'll give him that. Like he looks like a pretty strong, pretty strong and sturdy gentleman. But as far as like his skills in a cage, I don't know. I don't know if he ever wrestled or did any combat sports. So I don't know. But Bellator signed a former rugby player. That's the thing. Look forward to it, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. But that's all I got for news and notes this week. So we will move on ahead to the main attraction of the evening, or morning I should say, because that's when I'm recording this. Bellator 225 went down. Where did it go down? I don't know. Oh, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Bridgeport, Connecticut. This was on Saturday night, I believe. Like I mentioned earlier, I missed it in real time because at the time I think I was out before I went to the club. I think I was at like Buffalo Wild Wings. But I was out and about, so I didn't see this in real time. I just, every now and again, I would just kind of check my phone, see what was going on. And initially, to be honest, like I wasn't really looking forward to this card. I guess in hindsight, I probably should have thought this would have been a little. I think really what made me not look forward to this card was the main event and co-main event, mostly because we all know how the first Kharitonov and Mitrione match ended, and the last Minikov performance that I saw left a really sour taste in my mouth. And I think those two fights kind of blinded me from everything else that was on this card, because now that I look at it, I'm like, there were actually some. And to my credit, some of these guys who performed on the prelims I didn't really know of. But yeah, to be honest, like I wasn't super looking forward to this card, but I saw a lot of clips of it on Twitter, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to watch this when I wake up tomorrow. So I woke up this morning, and I started watching the prelims. I was like, oh, this bro, every fight, literally every fight was a finish. And that's my kind of card. I'm all for that. It makes rewatching them so much easier when nobody sees the end of a round 3. So yeah, this card was really, really dope. So I will just start from the top. Main event, Sergey Kharitonov versus Matt Mitrione. First match ended with a nut shot. Very anticlimactic. You know, is what it is. Second fight, we actually got a fight. I'm glad we actually got to see some heavyweight fisticuffs be thrown. First round, I thought Mitrione was doing pretty good. As you all know, Mitrione for a heavyweight, pretty nimble on his feet. He was landing pretty good combinations. He had a nice little inside leg kick going. Kharitonov looked like a little stiff in the first round. Like he would pump a jab out every now and again. I feel like he kind of went for that uppercut a couple times, but he kind of just got outworked a lot in that first round. Just Mitrione's a lot more busier, put pressure on him. Just in terms of volume, he had just much more to offer than Kharitonov did. Kharitonov spent a lot of time in that first round, kind of on the outside, just not really being able to get much off. And Mitrione had a pretty solid first round. But it's heavyweight MMA, and in heavyweight MMA, there's always room for shenanigans, and boy, did they start happening. I can't remember if this all happened in the second round. It might have happened in the first. But Matt Mitrione, in the case of the mysterious mouthpiece that fell out of his mouth, I want to say 4 times. It got to the point where I think Murgliata was the one reffing this fight, and he pretty much just had to threaten Mitrione, like, bruh, if that mouthpiece comes out one more time, we gonna stop this. Not stop the fight, but you're getting the point taken away. It was like Mitrione, Kharitonov would just land something, and then Mitrione's mouthpiece would just kind of go flying. So that happened a couple times, but in the second round, I think Kharitonov just kind of woke up. Mitrione was still being busy, but you could see Kharitonov just started to really pick it up more. He started to land that the jab was getting a little more frequent. He started throwing some pretty good body shots, and you could see him. He was working that uppercut. Boy, he wanted that uppercut bad. Saw him. He hit Mitrione with the Philly shell pose a couple times. But no, he really just kind of started getting busier in that second round, and it just seemed like Sergey hits pretty hard, man. It seemed like when Sergey was landing with some authority, and even though as busy as Mitrione was, I never got the sense that Sergey was being kind of outworked, but never that he was in actual danger of being stopped or anything. Sergey started landing some pretty good shots, and like I said, he would catch Mitrione like a hook, mouthpiece goes out, Murgliata gets mad, mouthpiece goes back in, repeat. It was kind of a wild thing. But came to a head in that second round. And it ended up kind of being, I ain't gonna blame it on the mouthpiece, because I'm not gonna take away credit from Kharitonov, but they had an exchange, and I want to say Sergey caught Mitrione with a left, and his mouthpiece, Mitrione's mouthpiece took the dive, and Mitrione did kind of this, oh boy, here goes his mouthpiece again, and while he's complaining in his head, Sergey got the uppercut on deck. Ready to go. Fires off the uppercut, and boy, he landed that bad boy pretty hard. And Mitrione was not ready for that smoke. Hit a stumble back and ate a knee on his way to the ground. Ate the knee, ate some ground and pound, and it was a wrap. I don't know, lesson learned from this fight. Make sure your mouthpiece is good. Because he was saying in his corner that he was saying to Murgliata, oh, my other mouthpiece is in my bag. We're well, why don't you have that mouthpiece instead of this little flimsy dollar store one that you apparently have that's falling out every 3 seconds? But I don't know. I guess a mouthpiece got him chin checked. That was terrible. That was a terrible joke. I should edit that out. But either way, man, Sergey put some good hands on him. That was a really nasty uppercut. Good win for Sergey. That was a really nice finish. Good on Sergey for just making better adjustments in the second round, just getting more active, not getting caught with like his back against the cage or just being forcefully being put on the outside. Like he became a lot more active. He started pushing the fight more. I like to see that from fighters when it's not going well in the first round and you're just kind of able to make the proper adjustments. Like he really just kind of stole that fight back. So good on Sergey. All for good uppercuts and knees. He got Mitrione out of there in round 2, so congrats to him. Sergey Kharitonov won via TKO. Co-main event, Vitaly Minakov versus Timothy Johnson. As I mentioned earlier, Minakov's last outing against Czech Congo, not good. No bueno. no bueno. Awful fight. And it sucked because we hadn't seen Minakov in Bellator for a while. And if you know Minakov, he's always been regarded as one of the best, if not the best heavyweight that's not in the UFC. And could probably give a lot of UFC heavyweights a pretty good run for their money. You don't want to see him turn in that kind of performance. But he bounced back from that Czech Congo loss in a pretty big way. I just like seeing he came out real aggressive. Like it looked like he was actually really trying to prove a point. And while Timothy Johnson might not be like the best heavyweight in the world, he's a pretty big dude. And it was wild seeing Minakov just kind of suplex him like he was like a little kid. Like he got, it was at one point, I think it was kind of like right when the fight first started. Like Minakov came out really aggressive. He just kind of blitzed him, got him up against the cage, and he kind of took Timothy's back and he just lifted him up and just kind of threw him like a small child. Twice actually. He suplexed him once, and then the other one was kind of more, it wasn't really a suplex. He kind of just threw him. But either way, like Timothy Johnson's a big dude. That's a large man to just kind of just casually throw around. Just casually throw around like that. But the finish in this fight was beautiful. They had a couple of decent exchanges, nothing too crazy. I couldn't tell from the camera angle because Minakov went for I think it was an uppercut. I couldn't tell if he landed it though because the way the camera angle was. But the finish, the front kick to Timothy Johnson's midsection, immediately followed by I think it was a right hand that really just cracked Timothy right on the chin, snapped his head back. He had to hit the retreat stumble back to the cage, and he did like this fall, and then Minakov just blasted him with a right and a left, and like his soul. It always looks bad when a guy's like head is like back against the cage and he eats a shot. It makes it that much worse. Like Minakov cleaned him with that right hand. I don't even think he really needed the left to follow, but you know, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do till the ref tells you to stop. But boy, the front kick and the jab were hard enough. That last right hand that he caught Timothy with, while Timothy was like kind of laying back, like kind of crouched with his back against the cage, that was filthy. that was nasty. But for somebody who likes Minakov, this is the kind of performance / like finish that I wanted to see coming back from that Czech Congo fight. Like that's how you bounce back. Like that was a brutal finish. So congrats to Vitaly Minakov. He got the KO over Timothy Johnson, just via savageness, pretty much. And a lot of these recaps are going to be pretty quick because a lot of these fights that just did not last long. Like I said, and every fight literally from the main card to the prelims was a finish. But moving down to women's flyweight, Alejandra Lara versus Taylor Turner. Most of this fight was pretty much contested on the ground. They kept it standing for a brief moment when this fight first started. And then I think Lara clinched with Turner, got her down. And a lot of this fight was just Lara taking Turner down, being able to advance position, land some ground and pound, land some elbows. At one point, Lara had Turner's arm trap, beat her up a little bit. Turner had a brief moment where she was able to kind of get Lara off of her. She was able to kind of get her feet on the hips, kick Lara off. Wasn't able to get back up though. Ended up eating a punch when Lara hopped back in her guard, and then Lara just starts raining down some abusive ground and pound. And Taylor's, I guess, kind of last Hail Mary hope. She went for like a leg lock, and that whole kind of battle happens where they're kind of twisting around. And in the midst of all this, Taylor tried to take Lara's back, and it ended up not working. Not only did it end up not working, Lara went from getting out of that position to mounting Turner, hit her with like 2 pretty hard elbows. Turner had to turn around, gave up her back, and then Lara just starts abusing Turner with, with punches from the top. Turner just has to kind of cover up and turtle up, kind of no way out of it. She's completely flattened out, face against the cage, and she is just eating punches with just no way to combat it, no way to defend it, no way to kind of get out of the situation. She just repeatedly ate punches until Lara ended up getting the win. Ref came in and stopped it. Lara got the TKO win via abusive ground and pound, all while wearing. Watching Bellator reminds me of why, like, the UFC just shouldn't have these nasty, ugly Reebok, uniforms, so to speak. You got to let the fighters express themselves via their clothes. Lara had some Nike shorts that said "Eat Clean, Bro" on the back. I thought that was pretty dope. But not Lara, very abusive ground and pound to Taylor Turner. So Alejandra Lara got that win in the first round. Moving down, Yaroslav Amosov versus David Rickles. Yaroslav, what is his record? I know dude's still undefeated on like some Habib type stuff. But he's been a guy who's kind of lately been making waves in Bellator, man. At welterweight, well, according to Wiki, this was at catchweight. So I guess one of them did not make weight. But yeah, so Yaroslav is 21-0, undefeated. Been in Bellator handling business. I want to say, was his last fight the Eric Silva? Yeah, he's beaten Eric Silva and Gerald Harris, among some others. And he looked pretty good again in this fight. A lot of this fight was pretty much contested on the ground. Though when they first started, they had a little exchange in which I want to say Amosov, I think, caught Rickles with a right and kind of give him a quick stagger, like real quick to start the fight off. But like Amosov was just able to kind of just take Rickles down and just really just be able to he just pretty much was able to just control the fight. It was a pretty dominant performance. Maybe not like the most entertaining, but he really was able to just kind of take Rickles down. In that first round, got him down, beat him up a little bit. Rickles trying to do something, trying to just do anything he can from his back, but nothing really working. Just Amosov just really able to just kind of smother him. So Rickles ended the first round just on his back, things not looking too well. And then in the second round, Amosov got Rickles down pretty quick. Rickles tried to land some little short elbows, I guess, to deter Amosov from. I think he was going for a single leg, and I guess he was just trying to hit him with some short elbows to just wiggle him off. Didn't work. Amosov got him down, and it just pretty much became a repeat of the first round. And unless I'm confusing this fight with another one, I want to say Amosov had Rickles down in his guard, landing ground and pound, and then at one point he was I think he was in like side control, and I can't remember the sequence. Like I remember him jumping over Rickles' knee to get into side control, and that ended up being what got him the Darce choke. I like how he really got it. It was pretty slick. The way he got the Darce choke, the way he was able to just advance his position to get the Darce in. But yeah, pretty dominant performance from Amasov. Like, there was never a point in that fight where he was in danger. He was pretty much in control from start to finish. And I guess at this point, I'm down with seeing him fight. I don't know who you give him, but he's got a win over Gerald Harris, Eric Silva, David Rickles at 21. Well, he was 21-0 at the time of this fight. Now 22-0. It might be time to give him that little leap in competition. See if he can see how he fares against some of the more, I guess, like elite, members of the Bellator welterweight division. Definitely a nice fresh face. Dude who has smothering wrestling, can mix it up pretty well. Pretty strong, just kind of able to assert his will on his opponents. I'm definitely would be down to see him fight somebody in that kind of like upper echelon Bellator welterweight division to see what he can do. But yeah, got a pretty dominant win over David Rickles. So shout outs to Yaroslav Amasov, won via Darce choke in the second round. And to round out the main card, Tyrell Fortune versus Rudy Shafroth. Apparently these two had some kind of history, kind of wrestling history. And I think Fortune beat him in wrestling at some point. They meet again in MMA. Not a lot happened in the first round. Rudy was throwing pretty hard, though. He was throwing some pretty hard shots. Like what Fortune was doing with that leg kick. He was battering Rudy with that leg kick. Like I want to say every time after the first time he landed it, like Rudy literally would like drop to a knee or fall. I wanted to see some more aggression from Fortune in the first. But I guess it was a part of his little diabolical plan. They mentioned it on commentary that he kind of had this thing that, because both these guys are undefeated. I think at the time when they both stepped in the cage, I think both of them were 6-0. And they mentioned during commentary that Fortune basically wanted to drag Rudy into the second round because Rudy had never been into the second round. He wanted him to know what that felt like and that he would finish him in the second. So maybe that was why he wasn't so aggressive in the first, because I feel like he had opportunities to be aggressive and he just kind of didn't take them. But he probably still won the first round just kind of based on those leg kicks alone. And then, boy, in that second round, he turned it up. MMA, I think MMA a lot of the times, the thin line between you winning and you ending up on the wrong end of a highlight reel or just losing a fight is just being able to it's all about opportunities and being able to take advantage of just even the most minute opportunity, just that one split second opportunity where you do something right that your opponent either doesn't see coming or just isn't ready for. And that can literally just be the difference between you winning or losing a fight. And Fortune kind of did just that. He got those leg kicks going again. And in the first round, when he would get the leg kick and like Rudy would just kind of drop, you would kind of just let Rudy get back up. Like it didn't seem like there was a lot of urgency there. And then in the second round, hits him with the leg kick. Rudy drops to like a knee, and while he's on the way back up, Fortune just rushes him, like cracks him with a right, has him staggering around, landed some vicious ground and pound. Like he was really letting loose on Rudy with the ground and pound. But he actually didn't get the finish by TKO. Ended up getting Rudy's back, and gave him the rear naked choke. And it was a really, really impressive finish. Just that split second opportunity, that little small window when Rudy was just trying to get back to his feet, and Fortune just blitzed him. It kind of reminded me in similar fashion of the way Lima beat, the way Lima KO'd Michael Venom Page. Sweep the leg out from under him, and then that split second while he's trying to get back up, you just kind of crack him with something. And I thought Fortune had a similar moment where he just was able to take advantage of a really just split second moment, and it ended up working in his favor. So I guess that would now make him like 7-0. I want to say. So still moving on as a prospect, still somebody not to, I think, rush along. It's funny because we mentioned on a lot of our other podcasts, like, what is a prospect, especially in the UFC, because a lot of their guys are prospects, maybe in terms of they're new to the UFC, but at the same time they're not really prospects, because a lot of these dudes before they get to the UFC have had pretty long fighting careers in other organizations. But I think Bellator probably has what the word prospect really means in like the most pure form. Like a guy like Tyrell Fortune, guys like on their undercard like Mike Kimball, who lost his fight, who I'll get to. Guys like Ed Ruth on the roster. I guess maybe Austin Vanderford to a degree. Guys like those, I think, are really kind of what more in line of what an actual prospect is, than kind of UFC guys. I just thought that was just a little tidbit that I thought of while I was watching this card. But Tyrell Fortune got the win via submission, rear naked choke. That was the main card. Did not last long at all. You can go back on DAZN and watch it. And like I said, it was all finishes. So it won't take you really long to rewatch this if you didn't get to see it. But I would definitely recommend it. It was, like I said, on paper, I wasn't like really crazy about this card. But like all of the finishes were just pretty impressive. And when it's all finishes, it makes it more fun to watch. I won't roll through all of the prelims, but I'm going to mention a couple of them that I watched, because I actually did watch a pretty good handful of them. Nick Newell versus Corey Browning at lightweight. Guys who don't know, Nick Newell used to fight in WSOF. He also was pretty much one of their most notable fighters on WSOF. I think he ended up getting a shot on, I want to say, the Contender Series, and I think he lost his fight. But guy's been out here handling business. You all know, guys who know his known as the guy who fights with one hand. Pretty much what he's recognized as. But he got a one-fight deal. I mentioned this on one of our last couple episodes of the podcast, that he got a one-fight deal with Bellator to fight Corey Browning, which I thought was an interesting matchup, because Corey Browning's last two fights were, I don't want to call them hype train derails, because, and I don't mean this as a shot, but I don't know how much of a prospect we really consider, like, because I think his last two were Aaron Chalmers and Baby Slice. And I don't really know how much of a prospects we think those two are, but either way, like, Corey was able to shut both of them down. But Nick Newell, if you know Nick Newell, man, he's pretty legit. Like, he's, I wouldn't really put Nick Newell on like a level of a prospect. Like, he's been around here for a while. He's fought some pretty good guys. He knows what he's doing in there. He's not just some run of the mill. Like, he's out here. But pretty good performance from Nick Newell. Able to work his jab. They had a couple of exchanges. He landed some pretty good right hands. Forgive me if I don't remember a lot of these fights in ton of detail. I literally just watched these this morning, but I only saw them once. So the prelims is always when my old man memory kicks in. But I remember Nick Newell landing some pretty good right hands in the exchanges that they had. And he was able to get Corey down. He had some really strong grappling, and the way, and I don't know how I never noticed this in all the times that I've watched Nick Newell fight, and some of the ways that he kind of works the clinch in his grappling, where like if you never watched Nick Newell fight and you don't know about him only having one hand, like his the hand, the arm that he's missing a hand, like it's literally just a hand missing, but he has like I guess you would say like the wrist down, I guess, kind of sort of. But, like, he'll use his one hand to grab the hand with no hand, if that makes sense, to kind of, like, tighten his grips. I don't know how I've never noticed that in his other fights, but it's pretty insane to watch. And that's kind of, I think, how he's able to put a lot of pressure on his chokes. But he was able to get Corey down, able to advance position, and eventually got him in a arm triangle choke. I say bring him back, man. Like, I don't see the point in giving a dude a one. Well, I don't know, because I don't know Nick No's situation. I don't know maybe if he had other opportunities or anything, but I say just bring him back. Like, he came back, he won this first fight pretty impressively, got a finish within the first round. Bring the man back. Let him keep fighting. It's not like Bellator doesn't need, you know. I like what Bellator is doing in terms of their talent as of late. I think it's gotten a lot, and I've said this plenty of times, and I'll continue to praise them for this. I think their just level of talent overall has gotten a lot better within these last few years, but they're still in need of depth. Like, don't just sign this man to a one fight contract. Let him keep coming back, man. He's a really solid fighter. If you've watched him in WSOF, if you've seen the man fight before, he's a good fighter. Like, let the man fight. Let him be out here. So, shout out to Nick Newell. Got his win over Corey Browning via arm triangle choke. The next prelim, which I did not get to watch, Connor Dixon versus Castriot Gemma. Connor Dixon won via submission, via armbar in the third round. Funny part about this fight, I didn't see it, but I just saw a quick clip of Gemma, I'm not sure how to say his name, probably butchering it, but there was a point during the second, I don't know what round it was, but I guess at some point he broke his hand or his thumb, and he's in the corner with Ray Longo. He's like, "Yeah, I broke my thumb." Longo's like, "What hand?" He's like, "Oh, it's my right hand." And Longo's like, "Yeah, it's fine. You got another one. You can't do anything about it." Like, just, hey, bro, we don't care about your thumb. You got another working thumb. I thought that's Ray Longo to the core. That is Ray Longo to the core. So that was a pretty funny clip. But Connor Dixon ended up getting the W via armbar. Next fight, John Manley defeated Thiago Rella via submission, rear naked choke. Didn't see that one, so I can't really comment on it. The next fight that I did get to see, Chris Dissanel versus Mike Kimball. Like I said, Mike Kimball, I think, is more of a definition of what a prospect is. A guy who hasn't, in terms of pro experience, doesn't have a ton, but like you see the physical kind of gifts that he has, and you just know it feels like there's something there, but he kind of needs to hone it. This is a pretty fun fight. They had some pretty good exchanges. Kimball was able to hurt him a number of times on the feet. I think I've been trying to pinpoint because Kimball has talent, but it just seems like sometimes it doesn't always come together the way it should. Because if you saw most of the highlights of this fight, if I showed you everything but the finish, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, Kimball probably washed him." Like, he rocked Chris a couple of good times, but I just thought Chris had a lot of MMA is about decision making during fights, especially when things aren't going your way. And like when he got rocked, he was able to kind of clinch and get his wits back about him. And I thought Kimball probably made a mistake during one of their exchanges where they had like a little wild exchange and Kimball rocked him, and they ended up going to the ground. And while Kimball was on top, I was like, "Dude, you should just disengage." Like, it seems like you're faster on the feet. You're really athletic and explosive. Like, you might be able to kind of just get a finish. But they kind of tangoed around on the ground for a little bit, and I think that it gave Dissanel more time to kind of get his wits back about him. To be honest, I don't remember how Dissanel got the finish, like what led up to it. I just remember him just kind of raining punches down on Kimball, and Kimball was in a bad spot where you kind of knew he wasn't. It wasn't like one of those brutal, like, oh, he's about to get knocked out, but it was one of those. It was one of those positions where he was eating shots and he just wasn't in a good. He wasn't in a good position to really like defend himself or get out, and you just kind of knew it was going to be over. And Dissanel got the win. I thought it was good on Dissanel because, like I said, he was getting rocked, but I thought he had kind of just better decision making, and him being able to just kind of clinch when he needed, just kind of get his wits about him. able to overcome a guy who I think was probably a bit more athletic and explosive than he was. But sometimes it just, like I said, it comes down sometimes to decision making and being able to make those little split decisions that kind of just, if they go your way, can really go a long way to getting you a win. So yeah, Chris Dissanel gets the win over Mike Kimball. I like Kimball. Sometimes I think he just needs to be, I don't know if it's like a patience thing. Cause I think he has a lot of talent, but it's just something just isn't clicking. I don't know if he just needs more experience. Sometimes maybe he gets a little too wild. Maybe he just needs to tone it back a little bit. Maybe pick shots a little better. I don't know. It's just something there. It seems like it's not clicking sometimes. But can't take nothing away from Chris Dissanel. He went out there. He did what he needed to do. He was able to overcome. And hey, sometimes that's enough. So shout out to Chris Dissanel. Got the win over Mike Kimball. Moving on down, Ricky Bandejas versus Ahmet Kharitonov, if I'm saying that correct. I don't remember much of this fight, and it only ended, it was one round anyway, so it wasn't a lot to remember. But I know they stood and traded for a little bit, but all I remember was the finish, in which Ahmet threw this really ugly kind of leaping left hook, and Bandejas kind of stepped back, caught him with this really short, and in real time, I didn't even see it. Excuse me, it happened so fast. He stepped back and caught Ahmet with this really short right hook, just kind of straight to the jaw. Dropped him, got some shots off after he dropped him, and that was pretty much it. Pretty much he just put the man's lights out. Yeah, don't just be leaping in with left hooks like that. Like, Ahmet didn't even really like set that left hook up. Like, he just kind of leaped in with it, and he just was kind of asking to be put out. Good on Bandejas, another guy on Bellator's roster that I think a lot of people just kind of want to see blossom into something. I want to say he had a setback his last fight, but yeah, he got choked out by, I cannot remember the guy's name, but good way to bounce back from a loss. So shout out to Ricky Bandejas. Hopefully he continues to grow. Definitely would like to see him. I just want to see Bellator have like that next wave of guys so we can just see fight for titles or just kind of make a name for themselves. Be like the next, be some new fresh faces that we can look forward to. So good on Ricky Bandejas. Got the KO over Ahmet Kharitonov in the first round. At middleweight, Austin Vanderford versus Joseph Creer. Austin Vanderford, known as Paige Van Zant's husband, out here carving his own lane. Good on Vanderford in this fight to. I'll go back to this a lot. I can't remember what fight I mentioned it last week. Like, there's always something to be said about a fighter when things aren't going your way, and then you realize there's at least one advantage you have, and you just kind of use that advantage to the best of your ability. Because Joseph Creer, kind of a tall and rangy middleweight, did a lot of work on Vanderford in that first round because he was just able to keep distance. He was catching Vanderford with body kicks. He was working his jab. Vanderford was really struggling to get on the inside. And Creer was really just kind of picking him apart from the outside. It was not looking good. And I think Vanderford got a takedown at like the end of the first. I can't remember. I feel like at some point he did. And then after he got that takedown, in the second round, Creer came out, and it was kind of looking like a repeat of the first, where he came out kind of aggressive. He was starting to get those strikes off really good. And I can't remember, it was a weird kind of sequence where, like, I can't remember what Creer hit Austin with. I don't even know if he hit him with anything. But, like, Vanderford hit this weird kind of like duck crouch thing. I don't know what he was doing. But it ended up leading to him getting a takedown over on Creer. And he was able to work top position, landed some pretty nasty ground and pound. I think he hit Creer with a couple of elbows. and he ended up cutting Creer open pretty bad. Creer had cuts on the top and bottom of his eye. Like he was bleeding pretty much all over the place. Vanderford did a pretty good job on the ground once he got him down there, of really punishing him for it. And the doctor ended up stopping the fight because of the cut. But I just thought it was good on Vanderford because, like I said, he was really struggling in that first round, just trying to deal with range and distance, and Creer was just really just picking him apart with his kickboxing. But when Vanderford took him to the ground, it's a completely different story. Like, he just was able to negate all of those advantages that Creer had on the feet once he took him down. Like, suddenly that length and that range didn't really matter. Vanderford was just kind of able to muscle him around on the ground and beat him up. So props to Vanderford, man. Able to, make adjustments, have a good comeback from that first round, really punish Creer. You hate to see fights end in a doctor stoppage, but he beat him up pretty good on the ground, so I can't really be mad at it. So congrats to Austin Vanderford. Got the TKO win. Next fight at welterweight, Sabaya Hamasi versus Micah Tyrrell. 17 seconds. They came out. They both just kind of come out. You do the little feel out. I'm in my stance. You in your stance. We kind of feign doing this whole whatever. Hamasi comes over the top with a right, completely ends Micah's life. Just Shang Tsung soul departure the second he lands that right hand, and just Micah's body went stiff, hand in the air, one of them KOs. Like, Jesus Christ. He stiffened and flatlined Micah with one punch. It was pretty nasty. It's not much else to say. It was literally like a one punch, one hit a quitter. I think he landed ground and pound. Not that he needed it, but it was a one hit a quitter. It was one hit, soul departure. See you in the afterlife, my friend. It was one of those. So congrats to Sabaya Hamasi. I don't know his record, but if he's out here snatching souls like this, I would like to see him fight again. I'm down for anybody who has those kind of hands. So congrats to Sabaya Hamasi. He killed a man in 17 seconds. Moving on down, Aviv Ghazali versus Edward. Oh boy, I'm gonna kill this one. Maravitsky? It's probably wrong. You know what? It doesn't matter. The fight ended in 11 seconds. Who cares? Another really quick affair. Aviv starts the fight, immediately goes for an Imanari roll, gets a hold of Micah's leg, gets a heel hook in. Wow. Like, and I think they said that was Bellator's record for fastest submission. That's definitely one of the fastest submissions I've ever seen. Like literally when it starts, straight Imanari roll, give me your leg, heel hook, game over. I think Aviv's like 18. So shout outs to him. Not much else to dissect. Imanari roll, heel hook, game over. So congrats to Aviv. Got that heel hook in the first round. And the last fight on the card at welterweight, Conry Gracie versus Oscar Vera. I don't remember this fight in a lot of detail, other than I think they mentioned that Vera fought Robson Gracie and got submitted via armbar, and then he fights Conry Gracie and same thing happens. I just don't remember. I know Gracie got him down, and I think Oscar played in the guard too long. You don't really want to be on the ground with anybody with the last name Gracie. And he paid for it. And that was that was kind of that. And that was it, man. That was Bellator 225. It was an awesome card, man. Like I said, what is this? Can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 fights, 14 finishes. So you can go back and watch this on DAZN. They got it up there. That's how I watched it this morning. Finishes on finishes on finishes. You got knockouts. You got submissions. one-hitter quitters, uppercuts, Darce chokes, arm bars, Imanari rolls. You got everything, man. You got the only thing, the only kind of KO I wish could have been on this card was a head kick. But in a night of all finishes, I really can't complain, especially for a card that I honestly wasn't really looking much forward to at first. But boy, did it deliver. So definitely go back and watch this, man. It was a really, really dope Bellator card. And you know, I guess we kind of got storylines from it, maybe. You know, Minikov back in his winning ways, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see him, I don't know, fight Ron Bader. I don't know how that works out. You know, Yaroslav Amosov continues to impress, so maybe we'll get to see him in some big fights. The continued progression of Tyrell Fortune, or Fortune. So, that'll be something to look at. Hopefully, we'll get to see Nick Newell again. I would like to see Nick Newell again. And a lot of their prospects, won. Maybe Mike Kimball, who I think they would probably want to win. I feel like Bellator probably does see something in him, but he lost unfortunately. But a lot of their other prospects and younger fighters did really good. So could spell good things for Bellator. We'll see. But definitely go back. That was Bellator 225. Go back and give it a watch if you did not get a chance to check it out. There were lots of fisticuffs, and a lot of people ain't make it out alive. Nobody did, really. Nobody made it out alive. 14 fights, 14 finishes. So that was Bellator 225. Go back and give it a watch. Next week, you guys might get next week's pod a little late, possibly, because this card will be on, I want to say, really early in the morning, and I have to work Saturday mornings, and after I get off of work, I have to go be a good friend for the second week in a row and support another friend in their turning of the Dirty 30. So I'll be out Saturday night as well, so probably won't get around to really recording next week's episode till maybe like Sunday evening. Don't know, but you guys will still get it. Just if it's a day or so late, just wanted to give a heads up. But next week's podcast will be UFC Shenzhen going down in China, where Shenzhen is. But that card is coming up next week. You got Jessica Andrade versus Weili Zhang for the strawweight title. Cannot wait for this fight. A lot of y'all real reckless on this internet, disrespecting Weili Zhang when she got this title shot. I think y'all are gonna see. I think she's gonna give Andrade a tough fight. I'm rooting for her, and I hope she wins. I'm not saying she's going to win, but I'm rooting for her. I think a lot of y'all are sleeping on Weili just because she's not like a huge name, but she's been out here putting in work. Probably, aside from Andrade, probably the second like physically strongest fighter in that division. So it'll be interesting to see how their strength matches up against each other. But that's gonna be an awesome fight. Lesky Dos Santos versus The Leech, Jing Leon Lee. You got Kanan Song versus Derek Krantz. Mizuki Inoue making her UFC debut against Wu Yanan. Kai Kara-France versus Mark De La Rosa. Anthony Hernandez versus Jun Young Park. Andre Sukumtat versus Sud Mudaraji. Couple of pretty solid night of fights. Not a super crazy stacked card, but I think this will be one of those cards that even when you don't maybe recognize a lot of names, I think we'll get some pretty good scraps out of this, and we'll get to see the debut of Laura Fritzen Prosopio, who I think the UFC signed from, where did she fight? I can't remember where she fought, what other organization she was in. Shudo. She was in Shudo. I think she was their flyweight champ. And Shudo, so I couldn't find any of her fights, but flyweight is in need of new blood, so I'll be keeping an eye on that fight to see if she's anybody worth keeping an eye out for. But next week card UFC Shenzhen should be pretty dope. I'm definitely looking forward to it. There might be some other fights next week, but I don't have them pulled up in front of me. So if there are any other fights that I didn't mention next week, you guys will hear about them. Between me and the Antaco, we'll have all of our bases covered. I think we do our homework pretty well. But that was Bellator 225. Awesome card. Lots of good finishes. definitely go give it a look. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to end this with parting shots and shout-outs. And my one shout-out will go to, let me pull up my notes, Jason Suarez of Titan FC, who also had a card this weekend. I don't know if it's Friday or Saturday, but they had a card sometime this weekend. Jason Suarez, featherweight champ, defended his belt against Andrew Whitney. What was a pretty good fight. I thought Whitney had a pretty good first round, but Suarez just able to get him down, and that second round was pretty much a wipeout. Suarez kind of dominated him on the ground and on the feet and on the ground. And that Suarez won via armbar, and it was a nasty armbar. Like, the way he was able to just get his foot like all the way over Andrew's head to lock in that armbar was pretty wild. But I gave this. I wanted to give Suarez the shout out because during the last couple of episodes, I kept referring to somebody in Titan FC who didn't get picked up by Dana, and I think I got the name wrong both times. This was the guy who I was talking about, who I meant to correctly mention, who a couple months ago at some point, I can't remember when, Titan FC had a pretty loaded card, and everybody thought Suarez was going to get signed. He ended up winning this fight. He had a comeback win, and I think he ended up getting the finish, and Dana didn't sign him, and dude's like undefeated. Seems like he's more of a grappling jiu-jitsu ace, but his stand-up is pretty solid, and I think he showed that in this fight that he is actually pretty well-rounded, and just a guy who's really been out here handling business, and I think at this point it's like, all right, man, somebody's got to sign this guy. Like, he's clearly one of the most talented guys. Like, here comes that word prospect again. Probably one of the most talented prospects who's not signed to like a major promotion. But yeah, I've seen the last few of his fights, and I'm like, all right, man, we can get him in a Bellator or UFC or somewhere, man. PFL at this point, he is 13-0. Like I said, current Titan FC featherweight champ. At this point, well, 13 now, 14-0 after that fight. But at this point, like, all right, man, let's get this guy in a bigger promotion and see what he can do. I'm not saying he's gonna come out here and win a bunch of belts and do all that, but dude seems like a really solid featherweight with a pretty good skill set. And Titan FC has pretty solid fighters. I've watched a few of their cards. They have some pretty solid cards. If you have Fight Pass, I think they're worth giving a watch if you're an MMA fan. But like when he's starting to separate himself from the bunch, at that point it's kind of time like, all right, let's get this guy to the next level and see what he can do. Clearly he's been out here handling business, so let's see him in the UFC, a Bellator, like I said, at this point even the PFL, because they have some pretty talented featherweights. Like, let's see what this guy can do at another level. I think he's proven in Titan how good he is, and it's time to give him a step up. So I wanted to give Jason Suarez a shout out. Really talented featherweight. If you haven't had a chance to see him fight and you got Fight Pass, go watch the last few Titan FC cards that he's been on. Dude's pretty solid, man. He's pretty good. I would like to see him get a step up in competition. And once again, just to reiterate, shout outs to Andrew Luck, man. Just best of luck in retirement, life after football. Hope your body heals up. I don't know if he has to get any surgeries or anything, but I just hope all that goes well, man. Just really sucks to see somebody that talented just have to kind of have their career cut short. Just because their body just physically just can't really hold up any longer. So shout outs to Andrew Luck, man. As a Colts fan, appreciate the years, had some good memories, and hope life after football just treats you well. But that's all I got, man, for today's episode. So as always, you can give this podcast a listen. SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. Send questions to dodotalkpodcast@yahoo.com. Hit me up and follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Serial Sensei, and you can buy my book, The Oddbar Chronicles, if you would like, for the very fair price of 99 cents for a digital copy on Amazon, or if you are more of the physical type, $8.99 for a paperback, because I'm a starving author, and I have bills to pay, and I need your help. So buy my book. Oh, actually, sorry, real quick before I get out of here. Shout outs to the Nerds on Hip Hop podcast. Every now and again, I get to go raid other people's podcasts that aren't MMA related, because I have many other interests. If you want to hear me talk about hip hop, anime, check out Nerds on Hip Hop podcast. I was on their latest episode where we talked about the anime Carol and Tuesday. We also talked about Flying Lotus's album Famagra, which is amazing if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to it, or if you don't listen to it. But I was on their podcast. Shout out to Miss Old School and the Wolves Den. I reposted it on my SoundCloud page. So if you want to give that episode a listen, hear me talk about things not MMA related, hear me nerd out about anime and hip hop, and just a bunch of other really cool things. We had a really dope conversation. I would love to do another episode with those guys. But if you want to hear me on something like not MMA related, go give that a listen. So like I said, it's on my SoundCloud page. The Nerds on Hip Hop. It is episode 38 for them. So go give that a look on the dojo on my SoundCloud page to go give that a listen. So shout out to them. But that's all I got for today's episode. So as always, anytime people are being punched and or kicked in the face, we will be there to talk about it. And until next time, I will catch you guys later.